Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Larry, and thank you so much to the AV team over there at Hill College. We're so excited to be here today. I'd also like to thank our NAMM team on this side. We have Eric Abel, whom you'll meet in a little while, and behind the scenes, Bethany Gilbert, who have been both extremely instrumental in putting this together. And we also have behind the scenes a group of 5 highly accomplished members of our industry that we're so excited to introduce to you today. I'm Carolyn Grant, and I'm Director of Market Development for NAMM. I've been with NAMM for about 26 years now, and I'm very, very honored to welcome you all to this special virtual session, Careers in Music from Passion to Profession. And as you know, this is presented as a collaboration between NAMM and our Careers in Music initiative and your own Hill College. So we're excited to do this for you and with you. So whether you're a student exploring career possibilities or a faculty member that's guiding the next generation, this session we have designed to provide insights that we hope are valuable into the many pathways within the music industry. So a little bit of an overview of what is to come today. First of all, we'll start with a brief resource overview that's going to highlight some of the tools and the opportunities that are available to help you navigate careers in music. And you'll learn about some of the resources that you can actually download for your own use. Next, after that, we will move into our industry panel discussion, where you're going to hear firsthand from our 5 amazing professionals who come from a variety of sectors within the music industry. So you'll get a broad perspective of many, many career pathways that are available. And then after that, we will open the floor for a Q&A session so you can ask any burning questions that you have and gain deeper insights from our speakers. So just a couple of words about NAMM. You are probably familiar with NAMM, but if not, I'll just say a few brief words. It stands for the National Association of Music Merchants. And it is a global not-for-profit organization that is dedicated to strengthening the music, sound, and event industry. Believe it or not, NAMM is one of the oldest trade associations in the United States. It was founded in 1901. And since that time, it has supported its members, and its members are the people and the businesses that make, create, sell, and promote musical instruments and products, while also championing music makers of all ages and abilities. So one of the most impactful ways that we do our work is through the NAMM show that you may have been to. We'll hopefully find out a little bit more about that later. The NAMM show is the world's leading trade show for the music, sound, and entertainment technology industry, and it is held annually in Anaheim, California. And that event brings together industry professionals like the ones you're going to meet today, artists, educators, and students to explore career opportunities, discover the latest product innovations, which is always a wonderful part, and to connect the leaders from every single corner of our industry. An incredible launch pad for anyone looking into building a career in music. So speaking of careers, our Careers in Music initiative is what we're going to explore today. It is one of the many initiatives that NAMM is involved with, and it is a key priority for NAMM. This initiative is designed to raise awareness about the many career paths that are available in this industry, whether that's in performance, production, marketing, manufacturing, artist relations, education, and many, many more. We will be exploring some of these today, and we will also be providing, as I said, resources and connections that hopefully will help you take the next step on your journey. So We are excited to dive in, so let's get started. And to get started, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Eric Abel. He is going to lead us through the first section of our time together today, all around resources. So I'll hand it over to you, Eric.
Thanks, Carolyn. Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to be here. The first thing I want to point you to in the regard with resources is our careers.namm.org Consider a Career in Music website. This site is chocked full of different resources for three different audiences. One for parents and students, that would be you in the auditorium, I would imagine. Educators, school counselors, same thing. And then there's a section for employers. For students, there's information about career facts, advice, why choose a music career, pathways to consider, resources, and much more. I'm just going to go through a couple of these resources. These are readily available for you at all times, and this website is constantly evolving and improving. So one of the things I want to bring to your attention is our world-renowned video archive called the NAMM Oral History Library. We have close to 6,000 interviews now with professionals from all sectors, and we've curated about 24 of those on this page, Careers in Music, which is linked from our site. And you'll get 3-4 minute interviews with some of these professionals in the industry, whether they're performers like Herbie Hancock or behind the scenes folks or people that are working for music companies. And that's kind of our whole point. There are many, many different career options in this industry, in addition to education and performance. The site also includes job boards, as well as articles and videos and all these resources for you to kind of go down the rabbit hole a little bit and see what's out there. Also to bring your parents along, to let them know what's out there and what's available for you. As Carolyn alluded to, the fundamental objective of this Consider a Career in Music initiative is to debunk that prevailing myth that choosing a career in music is choosing a life of instability and poverty, and sometimes referred to as the starving artist. You know, you go into music because you just don't want to do anything else, which kind of implies that it's really, really difficult. Well, every career is difficult, I'm sure, but the starving artist myth is just not accurate. The fact is, the music industry is an economic superpower. It has evolved and it continues to expand significantly. The old idea of the starving artist doesn't really hold up when it comes to music careers. In fact, these careers can provide significant financial stability. According to the US Department of Labor and Statistics, the average yearly incomes, and this was in 2021, for music careers range from about $50,000 to $80,000 a year. That's not starving. And for those in leadership positions, of course, salaries can soar to 230,000, of course, and much, much higher. It depends where you are, what your skill level is, of course. But I think even more importantly is that since we spend most of our lives working, what you do for a living, of course, is important, but who you do it with has a huge impact on your life and your happiness. So it's an important thing to consider that a career in music will be surrounded by music people. That's what I've seen. I think you'll hear that a lot in our panelists' descriptions of their careers. There are so many careers in the industry. Of course, music educators are the bedrock of our industry in what they do. They're music performers and content producers, but not all are called to be performers or educators. So we're here to illuminate all the other really fulfilling and lucrative jobs in our industry. So you can be thinking about these. And the other message is that as music students and as educators, music students are already learning most of the referred here as soft skills. We like to call them workforce readiness skills. These are these durable skills that stay with you for your whole life and make you pretty much ready for any career, not to mention a career in music. Music education is a great way to develop human beings that are ready for the workforce. There are many, many pathways. There's no one path. There's no one size fits all. Whether you're interested in pursuing the traditional academic route like you're doing now, it may not be your only path. There may be self-study in your future with the new, the various ways that you can learn about a career, networking opportunities like at the NAMM show, apprenticeships, internships, lots of different pathways. And there's a lot of things that you're already developing as students that emphasize and nourish the skills that you need to be successful as a music student and as a music professional. Whether that's maybe you're patient and calm, and reliable, consistent, then there's maybe some that you consider: music educator, instrument design, repair, luthier, instrument tech, music therapist. So there's a lot of things to think about. Basically, if you are interested in music, if you have a passion for music, there is a place for you in our industry. And especially here, I know most students we talk to are really concerned with these tectonic shifts that are happening in our world. Just to mention it, one is AI and how it affects the job market. Ultimately, we all desire to have a career that aligns with our values. I mean, that's ideal. So what you wake up and do every day aligns with a deeper purpose. And so the possibilities and combinations are endless. Our goal is to help you reframe what a music career might look like. And my point, once again, is that careers in music are as diverse as music itself. If you're passionate about music, there's a place for you in our industry. And now, the part that you've all been waiting for is our amazing panel of industry experts. I'll turn it back over to you, Carolyn. Here we go.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric, for reviewing those resources, very important resources that I know you've worked hard to develop. So thank you so much. We are going to now introduce our panelists. So I'm going to ask them all to join me, and I'm going to start by introducing Erin Kessler, Marketing Director at Maple Leaf Strings. So Erin is an accomplished musician, a member of the U.S. Army National Guard Band, and a strategic marketer with a deep-rooted passion for music and craftsmanship. As the marketing director at Maple Leaf Strings, she combines creativity and business acumen to promote excellence in stringed instruments, driving brand awareness and customer engagement. So I'm going to ask a question of Erin, a brief question. I'm curious, as we want people to get to know you a little bit. So can you tell us briefly what first ignited your passion for music?
Of course. My brother is just about a year and a half older than I am. So he got to start piano lessons before me, and I was very jealous as a 4-year-old. And that's what started it all for me, jealousy.
Jealousy. That's great. Thank you, Erin. We're looking forward to talking with you today. I'm going to now introduce J-Dash. J-Dash is the owner of SlapDash Productions. He is a rapper, songwriter, record producer, film composer, and the visionary owner of SlapDash Productions. He is recognized for his entrepreneurial spirit and innovative approach to music production. With a knack for discovering talent and producing hit records, he continues to push the boundaries in the music industry. He is a wonderful supporter of our Careers in Music initiative. We're just so thrilled to have him with us today. And J-Dash, I will ask you in a few words, what sparked your love for music?
Thank you for the question, Carolyn, and thank you, Hill College, for having me. What sparked my interest was probably not really coming from a musical family at all, and going on a journey of music discovery and learning different genres at a young age. And so it was like discovering a language that you didn't know existed, but you also spoke fluently. So I think at about 5 years old, I started playing keys, and that kind of sparked my passion for it.
Thank you so much. We're going to have to remember that phrase that you just said, a language that you didn't know existed, but you already know how to speak. Something like that. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome to our panel today. Going to move on to Samantha Lane, VP at Eastman Music Company. So Samantha is a seasoned musician and an executive at Eastman Music Company. She is known for her leadership in driving growth and innovation, with a passion, great passion for music education and instrument development. She plays a pivotal role in shaping the future of music performance and education worldwide. Samantha mentors young professionals through NAMM's YP, stands for Young Professionals, the International Women's Brass Conference, and NEC's Entrepreneurial Musicianship Program. She also serves on the board of United Sound, advocating inclusivity in music education. So welcome, Samantha. Lovely to have you with us today. Thank you for taking the time. So in a nutshell, Samantha, what inspired your journey into music?
I'll be 3 for 3 here. I started piano at the age of 5. And that was something that was already a spark, and I loved it. I started playing the trumpet. I know that we have a few people who are in the audience today who are also fellow trumpet players. I started that when I was about 8 years old. And from there, the universe expanded, and I saw all of the different possibilities, even at a really young age, for feeling this passion with music in my life. That was the spark, and it's kind of continued on since there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Samantha. Thank you for being here. Going to move on to John Wittman, Associate VP of Artist Relations at Yamaha Corporation of America. John is a seasoned classroom music educator, an accomplished artist, clinician, and quite a dynamic speaker. He currently serves as the Associate Vice President of Artist Relations at Yamaha. He brings a wealth of experience in fostering relationships between artists and industry leaders, driving innovation in music education and music performance. So John, what was the defining moment that set you on your musical path?
Thank you, Carolyn. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. I always loved listening and watching people play drums. It was always kind of in me, even as a little boy. And I used to take the bus down Fifth Avenue to Romeo's Music Store to look at this big, beautiful blue sparkle drum set in the window. And I would just, stare at it and stare. And I'd walk in the store and they'd look at it. And then I'd go home and tell my mother all about it. Long story short, one day my mother tricked me. She drove me down in our red Ford station wagon to Romeo's Music under the ruse of getting some drumsticks or something. I had a drum set that was always breaking down. When I'm standing there, I watch this man walk over and he starts taking this blue drum set out of the window, and I get very angry and I march over there and I say to him, what are you doing with that drum set? And he said, I'm sorry, it's sold. I said, who bought it? Because then I would have to go beat them up too, and he pointed over to my mother. I started crying. We get the drum set home. We put it in the living room of a small flat that we lived in. And she said, you have to go put on a shirt and tie before you play it because I need to take a picture. It was like getting keys to a rocket ship. And I don't know if this will work.
There it is.
But that's the drum set. That's the moment that ignited my path, and I haven't slowed down since. But that was the moment that it started for me. I was 11.
How lovely. How lovely. Thank you, John, for sharing that story.
Yeah.
And DJ Hapa. DJ Hapa is a performer, educator, author, and prominent figure in the music industry. He is known for his innovative DJ techniques and insightful teachings. As the founder of thedjcoach.com, he has empowered countless aspiring DJs worldwide with his expertise and passion for music. In addition to his passion for music and music education, Hapa is an official spokesperson for the Epilepsy Foundation, spreading awareness for the condition that affects more than 65 million people worldwide. I've had the honor and opportunity to work with DJ Hapa on a number of these initiatives, and we're just thrilled to have you with us today. In a few words, what was the moment that made you realize that music would be a big part of your life?
Yeah, thank you for having me, and excited to be here with everybody here on this panel. And this is great. I wish I had a picture like John had. And I didn't start actually on the keys. I'm going to kind of be a little bit disruptive here. For me, despite getting started really on drums and getting into drumline and playing in marching bands, the spark for me was really, I think, a little bit later when I was in high school. And I was recording songs off of the radio using a cassette player. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but I was using cassette tapes, and I had this idea of what if I could take this favorite part of this song and then put it together with this other favorite part of this other song. And so I started experimenting with cassette tapes and trying to figure that out. I was creating essentially remixes before I knew what they actually were, and then selling those at lunchtime in high school, and starting to think, man, this is maybe what DJing is. And then I quickly found out through my best friend's older brother that DJs were using turntables on the radio, and that's what professional DJs were using. And I was like, oh, my dad has one of those, and he has a record collection at home. And so, yeah, I went home and tried to scratch on his Stevie Wonder records, and it didn't quite go the same way. But it definitely ignited a spark that has become this journey, this almost 30-year journey for me. So very excited to be here, and very excited to be able to share.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, it's those little defining moments can set a path for life. I know for me, it was just the opportunity to, as a 5-year-old, to touch a piano key and to watch it go down. And I just thought that was the most exciting thing on earth. So it doesn't take much to ignite that spark. And we're so glad that that spark became the force that all of you are today in our industry. So thank you. So we're going to start with our questions now. I think we've got about half an hour or so to dive in here. So I'd like to start by talking about your journeys. I mean, I think there is a misconception that many of us, started our career and knew where we were going and knew exactly, the end point, and just followed a kind of preconceived pathway. And I think people might be surprised to hear some of the stories that we all have. So I'm going to start, I think I'll start with Samantha. Could you talk a little bit about your journey to that got you to where you are today?
I couldn't agree with you more. I think one of the things now that I look back, my journey was anything but linear. There was no like recipe to where it was that I exactly landed at this point. All my life, I thought that I was going to be a trumpet player in the Boston Symphony. I thought that that was going to be the trajectory, and I was aiming for it, and I worked hard, and I did really well. Both of my degrees are in trumpet performance from the University of Connecticut and then New England Conservatory of Music in Boston. And I had a great career as a professional freelance trumpet player, mostly classical and brass quintet, things like that. But it was around the time that I was leaving my master's degree that I started to get to know this company, S.E. Shires. It was a small boutique brass instrument manufacturer in Massachusetts. And I loved the people, I loved the instruments, and I loved this really interesting niche part to me at that time of the industry. I had no idea that there was something with musical instrument manufacturing, or how it could connect people, or how you could get involved in that. And so after I left NEC, I started to become more and more involved with that company, eventually working there as a sales associate after I was a dealer. I had no business training, not a single entrepreneurial course, not a single business class. I started an LLC to sell musical instruments, and then kind of worked my way through the company and landed now 12 years later as the vice president of the brass division for a much larger company that includes SC Shires. So it's a very full circle. But it was not at all what I would have ever expected, but it's now something that's so much more meaningful to me. I now am involved in the musical journey for an instrument from the time that we design and develop and have the inkling of an idea to musicians playing it, to the store owners who are purchasing it, distributors all throughout the world. I get to touch every single aspect of the instrument as it goes through its own life cycle, and the same with musicians. And that for me is like the most incredible feeling.
And there's such power, I would imagine, in knowing that the work you have done has led to someone being able to express themselves as a human being through music. You know, that end result that we all are, you know, have in common is you know, what could be better than knowing that all your hard work ends in something so beautiful?
I read something recently too. There's very few careers where you can really see the work that you put in and someone's reaction on the other side of it. One of the other ones is a chef or the restaurant industries. You can see in real time somebody's reaction to the joy that you're bringing them on a plate. And it's the same with music too. You can see the joy and the growth for an individual or an ensemble with the instruments that they're playing on. And it really is just a truly magical thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your pathway, Samantha. Very inspiring. Same question for J-Dash. I'm curious, would you be able to share what your pathway has looked like and how you got to where you are today?
I appreciate that question. It's so funny because it's always weird looking backwards, because when you look backwards, it all seems so clear, like it all makes sense to get you where you are now. When you're in it, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So my journey in music was not necessarily like educational. I didn't go to school for music. I actually went to school for computer science. Music and technology was something I understood at a really young age and something, both things I had a passion for. At the same time that I was like playing in smoky blues bars when I was 10 years old in bands on the keys, I was also, you know, building my own computers from scratch to kind of learn, because it's all the same thing to me, right? Like it all is connected. Um, so at around 14 years old, I started learning about music production. I started using friend studios because I had absolutely no money whatsoever. And so I was like, man, I got to figure out how to get closer to my community because I felt like musicians and everybody associated was my community, but I had no pathways to get to them other than playing. And it was at that time that I discovered the power of having value. And I think that one of the things that we miss sometimes, even in the educational world, is like, hey, we're not doing this to complete an assignment, right? We're doing this to provide you with a way to provide value to someone else, right? And that is larger than, you know, making money. It's like how you connect with people. So when I got into college, I started my LLC. I started SlapDash Productions when I was 19. And again, had no money. And so I was like, man, how am I going to really grow my business, but also grow my network and my career in this industry that I've always kind of felt like I've been orbiting, right? I've never been in, I wasn't in the in crowd. And so I started going, shout out to Hapa. I started going to the DJs because to me, the DJs were the lifeblood, like the way that we got music to people, right? And so I started connecting with DJs and like to the point where I was carrying their crates, because this is when DJs used to carry crates into the clubs. Like I was carrying their crates into the clubs. I was learning at the same time how music worked, right? Like I could make it, but that's just me in my cave, like typing away at a computer and playing, you know, my keys, but actually seeing people's reaction helped me learn like real music reacts. That's something that TJ Chapman taught me. real music reacts. Like you can see it happen. And that's something that Samantha was saying is like, how do you get a reaction out of people? How do you connect with people in a different way? And so from there, I started like chasing that feeling in all different ways. So it went from me creating a song called The WAP to help people like dance together, right? We sold a few million records of that. And then like I started getting into sync licensing because I loved seeing like people react to my music on television. And then I got into film scoring because I wanted to learn how to control the emotions of a film and like control the emotions for people through film. And it was an amazing journey of learning like how to connect with people in different ways. And so my journey is like, it's like a snake, man. It's just all over the place. And there were so many ups and downs. So many times I've bumped my head and so many times I've hit brick walls. But it's at those walls that you really discover who you are because you end up either, you know, stopping at the wall, turning around and going backwards, you quit, or you figure out a way to get over or through that wall. And 9 times out of 10, you'll also meet other people at that wall. And those are the people that you end up breaking walls with together. So that's kind of been my journey is just meeting different people, learning, connecting, discovering. And, you know, we get we get a few trophies along the way. But those are things that they're cool to look back at, but we're constantly looking forward. And so like opportunities like this are kind of why I do it.
I noticed as you're talking, you've used so many words about community, connection, communication. It seems to be like a thread through your life, as well as you really seem to be driven by your heart. It just seems like, you know, you had a passion and you listened to it, right?
100%. Like that's how I end up like growing with people. And that's how I end up networking is like it's not really expecting anything from anyone, right? I played with a band years ago and I got invited because of my drummer to play for Yamaha at the NAMM show. So how full circle is this that we have like Yamaha and NAMM and like this is crazy to me. Like it's a full circle moment. But it was at that show that I connected with Dave Jewell from Yamaha, who he was in California, I'm in Florida, but we kept in contact for probably about 4 or 5 years. I had nothing to offer him, right? But then one day I was in Carlsbad, I think at the time, and I was like, hey man, you want to go grab some coffee? He was like, come out. And we start talking about stuff that I was doing in Jacksonville, Florida, and stuff that was happening in advocacy work with NAMM and Yamaha. And he was like, you would be great for this. And now I have become a national advocate for music education through that conversation. And so again, this is really just about connecting, networking. The music is something that you do. It's going to happen regardless, right? It doesn't matter what your budget is. If it's in you, you're going to create. But what it's really about is human connection, right? Like, and figuring out ways and better ways to do that.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you. Erin, how about you? I'm so curious about your musical journey.
Yeah, I think, just like everybody's, it snakes around. There's no straight path. And like Samantha, I was like, I'm going to be this amazing French horn player. I'm going to be in like the Marine band or the Air Force band in DC, or I was going to be this amazing high school band director that was like well known everywhere. And none of that happened. And it's great because, over time I realized I didn't want to practice that much. I didn't like classrooms of children. I really liked the creative and strategic side of music. Like, how is this presented? How was this show planned? How do people know how to get here? How do they recognize these people? All of that sort of stuff behind the scenes. So I really just started teaching myself, taking like YouTube courses and Skillshare to learn marketing and design. And now I do that every day at Maple Leaf Strings. And but as far as being a musician, like you can be a musician your entire life. That is something that doesn't just leave you. It's not like, I mean, I can't play football until I'm 90, but I can always be a musician, even if it's just playing the radio. Like I count that.
Cool.
But like when it comes to the community and making that connection, for me, that was really what I get to do within the Army National Guard Band. I do that in Ohio. It's like I call it my side hustle. But I've been so blessed to really get to connect with people during the saddest parts of their lives when a loved one passes away, and I'm playing taps at a service. And as sad as that is, I get to be the one to add a little bit of closure to someone's life. And that is such a connection to my community that I deal with every day that otherwise wouldn't happen if there wasn't music in the world. So, it's not a straight line. And you're like, as a music educator, it might be a straight line, but the people that you teach or that you interact with might have the same path as someone else that's a little wonky, but it leads to things that I wouldn't have found if I had stuck with my original plan.
Well, thank you, Erin. And I think, Eric alluded to this in his introductory comments about resources, in that it is so important to be surrounded by the people you love to be around. And I think you can already see on this panel why we're so passionate about this industry. It's the people like Erin, like J-Dash, all of the different skill sets, the different pathways, the different interests. There's room for all of this in our industry. So thank you, Erin. I'm going to move on now. I'm going to end with John because I want to pick up the drum story. But before I go to John, I want to go to Hapa. Hapa, tell us how you've become DJ
Yeah.
Hapa.
Yeah. I mean, like everybody else said, I mean, there is no one straight path, and that's for sure. And, I think for me, I remember, at a certain age, and maybe some of the folks in the audience may be experiencing this, but, when you're in high school, middle school, high school, college, people start asking, well, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to be? And I remember at some point saying, I think I might want to be a teacher. And then I had the realization that teachers like the going thing was that teachers didn't make a lot of money. And so I was like, I like too many nice things to then become a teacher. So I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll be a college professor or something. But then it was like, well, I don't know what I'd actually teach. Anyways, I ended up going to college. I went to UCLA. I studied sociology at UCLA, not music, which ironically, sociology is the perfect degree for somebody who wants to be a DJ. You are learning about communication skills and nonverbal communication and reading a room and all of this. And so, but that's not why I picked sociology. I picked sociology because there were some good looking girls in the major. And I'll just be really honest. I mean, like that's what it was for me. But, it became something where I found community, so sort of similar to what J-Dash was talking about. I found community on that college campus. And, I was DJing dorm parties on my own at the time, not with the idea of this being a career path. And then I found other DJs at UCLA who were older than me, who were more knowledgeable. And like Jay was saying, I mean, I was carrying crates, I was setting up speakers, I was, putting in that work. And I think being able to, that was my schooling, was sitting there for 5 hours watching DJs rock this crowd and being like, okay, got it. Get home at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and then start practicing the things that I was seeing. All with the intention of this just being something fun. Never knew that this was going to be something that I would end up pursuing. In fact, while I was in college, a lot of the people that I was being mentored by, as they graduated from college, oftentimes that was the last day they DJ'd. Then they said, okay, now I'm going to move on and get a real job, quote unquote real job. And that moment just never happened for me. So it just kept going. And, really truthfully, I became an entrepreneur through the process of being a DJ. I had started a business with some friends while I was in college, folks that I was DJing with at the same time. You know, the businesses that we were starting were adding value and serving DJs, and we created an online record store in 1999 before that was really a thing, and that turned into a physical record store, which turned into a DJ school, which turned into 6 DJ schools, which then turned into, you know, me going back to school, becoming a professor of music, and then building the DJ coach, and now serving, you know, people from 192 different countries online. You know, so you just never know how these things will go, but I couldn't agree more with what everybody has said about, you know, there being so much value in doing something that you actually enjoy. You know, I've never had a day where I've woken up and been like, I gotta go to work. Never had that day. I've never experienced that. And I'm not here to put that down either. Like, you know, but I am here to say that is a choice. That is a choice that we all have. And I think all of us here on this panel, I think we've made a choice in saying we don't want that morning. We don't want to have that type of morning. And so, yeah, just excited to be able to share.
Yeah, thank you. That concept of choice, I think, cannot be emphasized enough. You know, we have the power to choose where we want to go if we listen to that passion and creatively and entrepreneurially move in that direction. It may seem crazy at the time. I think somebody alluded to that. Like now it seems clear, but at the time it didn't seem clear at all. But just having that power to choose and to follow the passion with the creative spirit. So thank you so much for sharing that. And John, what happened after the Sparkle Blue drum kit? Where did that lead you?
That was the rocket ship. I have to say how blessed I am and grateful to be here with everybody. I'm just loving this so much. Thank you for including me. I love hearing the stories. Where that drum set took me was some serious dedication to rock and roll and playing drum set. I wasn't interested in being in band per se because I didn't like the sound of it really, and the band director didn't like me at all, and he wouldn't let me in. Oh, hang on a second, I need to stop this. I was going to go on and study environmental studies. I wanted to be a forest ranger. I thought my life would be dedicated to the outside and to the earth. But I was very dedicated to the craft of drumming, and I had a lot of good input in that. I was walking down the hall in my senior year. Joanne Miller, who was one of the music teachers who had come to know me and know my playing, stopped me and said, "What are you doing when you graduate?" I said, "I'm going to Paul Smith to study environmental studies." She said, "Absolutely not, John Wittman. You are a musician." And it just stopped me in my tracks. And I said, "Mrs. Miller, I think of where we are. It was Albany, New York. So, you know, you think of like Samantha, you know, like that school she went to was, you know, world class. Where else? Juilliard, you know, Eastman, you know, all these places to me that were just, I had no ability to even conceive of trying to audition. Long story short, she turned me around and I met a teacher who prepared me, and I auditioned for a school in Albany called the College of St. Rose. Had a very good music education department. So I went full force into that. I was so poor on mallets and, you know, marimba and timpani and everything like that, that I would literally wait till 11 or 12 at night to go in when they were, you know, cleaning and things like that, but there was nobody really in there. And that's when I would start my, you know, mallet and timpani stuff because I was so, you know, behind. I ended up leaving college after graduation. I was offered 3 teaching positions right away, but I knew that that would be the wrong path for me. And I started auditioning for road bands in those days. And I'm going to date myself, it was early 80s. There were huge rock clubs all around the country and many bands rotating through them. I took many auditions. The one I got lasted a tour for 3.5 years. So I played drums loud and hard 6 days a week, 5 hours a night. it was there that I learned how to be a musician. And the first week of that tour that started, the guitarist turned around and said, "Son," that's when I knew I was in trouble, when somebody starts with "son." And he said, "I'll take out all the expletives, so it'll cut down the sentence by a lot." He said, you better forget all that fancy stuff you learned in college and hit that snare drum as hard as you can on 2 and 4, or I'm going to fire you in Dubuque, Iowa next week." And I said, "Message received, sir." And I turned around the drumstick, and that's when I really started to serve the music wholeheartedly. After 3 years of that and surviving and remaining alive, I went back and got my master's degree in conducting and was a band director for 8 years in upstate New York. I taught elementary, middle school, and high school. Middle school is my favorite because they're crazy and they're fun and they're not terminally hip yet. You can really talk to them, and I enjoyed that group so much. After that, I realized during that time that my hands were, dying, as was my soul. I love teaching, and I still teach, but I decided to go after the big record deal in the sky. Long story short, again, went after it, formed a group, won the record deal, got it, and it disappeared in 2 weeks. We were yesterday's news, removed from everything, lost everything we had put into it, 2 years of work, and all of the music and all the videos. We didn't own it anymore. So I was 30 something, 2 degrees, broke, in debt. That's when I said, okay, let's go. And that's when I started 6 to 8 hours of practice a day, learning the styles that I didn't know and learning how to speak and teach inspirationally. I had hoped and started working on being a full-time player and a full-time clinician. I wanted to teach these things in my life lined up, teaching, playing, and I dedicated myself to giving. I tried to shoot for 100 clinics with giving 100 clinics without asking for a penny from anybody. And I figured after I get through that, I better be pretty damn good at this or I'm wasting my time. I never asked for one endorsement and was offered 4. I proved value, like I think Jay and Hapa mentioned, really hopefully presenting without asking for anything. And that led to my relationship with Yamaha and, the other companies like Zildjian and, Vic Firth, et cetera, et cetera. And then Yamaha asked me to come on and be manager of artist relations. And that was 28 years ago. And through those years, I've done many different things at Yamaha. They were all over the place, just like, like Samantha was talking about her path and everyone else. But I believed in the company because I believed in the quality of the music instruments and the people. And that, led me to today. But through all that, the cohesive thread was remaining dedicated to the craft of being the best musician that I could possibly be. So it's been all over the place, and we're still going.
Yeah, we're still going.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for sharing those stories. Certainly, there's one constant or several constants, but one is there is no straight, at least in our experiences, there have not been straight lines. There's a sense of value, there's a sense of community, dedication to the art and craft of music making, and to following one's passion and heart. So thank you all. Now, I think I'll phrase this question. I'm curious. So I want to broaden the awareness of types of career pathways that might be out there. So I'd like to ask each of you, can you talk about 2 or 3 people that you work with in your company each day that have different career paths? So who do you interact with? And I'll start with Erin this time.
Yeah, so what I do is I work with a few people at our location in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then with retailers nationwide. But I think the one person I would love to highlight the most is this young girl named Eden. She is not a musician. She's not a luthier, none of that. She does embroidery. She embroiders every single case that comes through our building, whether it's with our brand or with somebody else's. And she absolutely loves what she does because she'll randomly see something that we share online or that one of our retailers shares. And she's like, I did that. I'm like, yeah, girl, of course you did. Like, that is so cool for me to see her, to see that. Like, it's such a weird roundabout thing. But to have that buy-in from someone who isn't really into the music world, not being a musician, but doing something that does impact lives through music. And then I think another person I'd love to talk about is this lady named Amy. She's not a musician, but all of her grandkids are. They all play some random instrument, and she used to be a manager at Home Depot. And now she's one of the leads in a setup department where she teaches everyone else how to put strings on cellos and how to cut a bridge or shape a fingerboard. And it, like, she absolutely loves it because she gets to come home and sometimes she'll bring a broken bridge to her grandchildren because she's like, look what I did, look at this is so silly. And it's just like those small little connections where before they started working at our company, they weren't musicians, but now they're dabbling. They're like, can I take home? I want to do this instrument. Where can I take lessons? And it's such a fun experience to watch grown people do music. And I love it because it's something you would never expect to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, those were fantastic examples of the diversity in this industry. So thank you so much. J-Dash, how about you?
Man, first of all, I love the way Erin phrased that answer because
Yeah.
I think it's a trick question. The people that I interact with, it's a string of roles that have accumulated into a person, right? And so, the people that I may talk to on a daily basis, I talk to my manager a lot, who used to manage DJs back in the day, but now he manages me and a couple of other artists. I talk to audio engineers that might have started as songwriters, right? And so, like, different accumulation of roles brings different perspectives. I talk to So just to give you a swath of what has happened this week in my
Yeah.
world,
Yes.
right? I have an article that's going to be coming out in Music Inc. magazine next month. And so it is, talking to, thank you to NAMM for the lead for that. And shout out to Music Inc. magazine, to talking to music editors, or I have an artist that is going to be on a very popular television show in a few months. And so we created some music that is going to be airing on that show. And so you're negotiating publishing and you're talking to music lawyers, you're talking to attorneys. I'm on the board of the Long Center in Austin, Texas, which is a performing arts center where we have the world's first 3D printed stage. And so I'm constantly talking to, I don't know, production managers, stage managers, artist relations, so A&R, and all of these roles that kind of, integrate into like what I have going on in a given week. And that is just this many roles that are available in the industry, right? Like all of the people that make all of these things run day to day. And I get to like just reach out and touch them every now and then. Is just amazing. But there's too many to name, right? There are too many opportunities. A friend of mine is a producer for the BET Awards. And when you see the list of jobs that are available. What is it? Eric showed me one time.
Yeah,
So is it
Eric.
300 jobs
Yeah.
for that one show?
Right.
And so to limit oneself to say like, oh, I either have to be the performer or, I have to be the manager, or the things that you like hear about maybe on a daily basis, but there are so many jobs behind the scenes that make all of these things happen. And you are robbing yourself of not exposing yourself to the options, and finding what your niche is. Because that feeling that Hapa touched on earlier, which is, I've never woken up and been like, I have to go to work. That doesn't happen by accident. Like he said, it's a choice. It is a choice of exposure. It is a choice of not settling And it is the choice of actually listening to your educators, who to me are the most powerful people, are the people that are in the classrooms teaching every day and have the influence, like John was talking about, who had an educator come and say, no, you are a musician. You should not be doing that. You should be doing this. Those are pivotal decision moments in one's life. And having those people around and those people available are invaluable.
Thank you. Thank you. Samantha, let's circle back to you. Who do you interact with? Say the top 3 people you might interact with at your company throughout the day.
Just to kind of just say what we've been saying earlier, it really is an incredibly diverse ecosystem. And so every single role that you can think of that might not even seem like a musical career probably does have some application into the music industry. So you think of someone in finance or HR or operations or inventory management or marketing or distribution, all of these things apply. It really is the music industry is its own universe in a lot of ways. And so we need to have the support and the infrastructure to be able to exist in that way. One of the things that's so special about what I get to do is I'm constantly surrounded by people who love music. And a lot of that is actually the instrument makers who build some of our instruments. So in our Massachusetts workshop, we have 30 people who are building brass instruments. And I think out of that 30, 25 of them are brass musicians. So much so that we have a brass ensemble that gets together every month to play and to do it for fun, to do it for events that we're doing. These people also play test our instruments. They get to build them, look down the section in a gig that they're playing, be like, hey, what's your serial number? Yeah, I built that horn for you. It's an incredible thing. And so we see that at multiple stages of our company. And kind of like Erin was saying, so many more people within the company want to get involved. Our vice president of HR doesn't play anything, but she basically has a museum in her office of all the instruments, because for her, it's become such an important part of who she is, even though she doesn't have the technical training. So the people who build the instruments, of course, like that's always such a close connection for me, and to see the joy that they get from being able to still play and gig and teach, and also during the day job, build instruments. Like what an incredible thing. The other role that I think is so interesting, there's so many, it's actually really difficult to try to like narrow it down to 2. Product management is a really interesting thing. If you have an interest in guitar or in stringed instruments, like what Erin was talking about, in brass, in woodwinds, there are very specific roles where you get to help define the life cycle of an instrument. So like helping the design team come up with the idea, figuring out the case, figuring out the outfit, figuring out how we're going to produce it, what is the marketing strategy to launch. Like you kind of get to do a whole bunch of pieces of the whole puzzle. And so that to me is a really interesting one. And my colleagues who are in the product management roles in our company, they really have like their sleeves rolled up, and they get to see that feeling of starting something and having it end with musicians. It's a really powerful and enjoyable process.
Yeah, that just like I said before, that end result is so satisfying. And I think it's so interesting that musicians, there's a wonderful combination of being a musician and creating music, and then also creating the tangible instrument, because music is, exists in time. So to be able to also be involved in creating something tangible that exists in space must be kind of an interesting combination for one's life,
You wouldn't want to ask me to build your instrument, though I wax poetic on it. Like I'm the biggest klutz. It'd be a disaster. But that being said, you really do appreciate so much more about the instrument that you're holding in your hand when you can peel back the layers a little bit and understand the process that goes into it, but also the people. And
Yes.
the real people who really they come into the workshop every day with the goal in mind that you have the best performance of your life. You think about that when you're playing your instrument, that makes my heart beat real fast.
Yes. Beautiful. Hapa.
Yep.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you.
I just wanted to jump in and sort of piggyback off of what Samantha just said, because a lot of the people that I interact with today are also developers, but not necessarily like physical hardware developers or instrument developers, but they're software developers. And so in our world, there is so much of it is driven by technology in the DJ and music production space. So I'm in communication on a daily basis with developers from all over the world who are working on a variety of different products that either we're currently using or we're developing. I work with a VR development team, developing an application for mixed reality right now, where you can DJ and perform in mixed reality inside of a VR headset, that you could pick up at Best Buy or whatnot. So it's really crazy to sort of see how this can bleed into so many other industries and so many other skills that one can possess. I did want to also throw out one other thing, which was that I think above all else, today, content is so important. And so I work with a ton of people, and I have somebody on my team actually that has been developed, like her role developed into a content role. She went to school for music, but started as an intern with me and then just started recording content. And then that led to, understanding a bit more about cinematography and photography and like getting the right angles with things and storytelling. And then that all has, been incredibly valuable to our overall company and to just my own personal career. And, nowadays I feel like it's so important to be able to show a lot of what it is that you're doing and to continue to put that out there. There are major corporations that are out there that have no idea how to actually reach audiences through social media, through the new means that exist today. And so I think for a lot of young people that are coming up that have grown up with social media, that have grown up where this is a language that they speak, it's sort of going back to what Jay was saying about this is a language that you didn't know you were fluent in. I mean, there are things and skills that we all have learned and that we continue to possess that will come with us regardless of whatever the name is on your business card. And I think that that's really important too, to recognize is that we will all each have, like, yes, there may be these moments where you've spent 20, 30 years at a particular company, but I can guarantee you that you've done a variety of different things within that time span. And I think that that's also really important for people to recognize is that at some moment in time, it won't just be this one thing that you're doing. And so, yeah, I think being open to the opportunities as they present themselves and also being able to create those opportunities. I think that goes back to value. Where is the hole? Where is the problem that needs to be solved? And are you open to stepping in and doing that? A lot of times I feel like the best positions are ones that you didn't necessarily put in an application for. They're ones that were created for you, or that you created by filling a need or filling a solving a problem that needed solving.
That's an interesting question. How do we prepare ourselves for jobs we don't know exist, right?
Yeah, I think it's about being observant and being, really, I often talk about listening with more than your ears, and ironically, this sort of comes back to my my college training in sociology, but I mean, that really is that. And it's also, in being a DJ and being able to read a room and really being able to tap into where are the needs. Like as a DJ, I need to know what you need before you verbalize it. I need to be able to pay attention to what's happening in the room to know that this is where this needs to go in the next 30 minutes. And I need to be thinking ahead in that particular way. So, I think being able to possess that skill set, which all of us have, it's just about tapping into that consciousness and really being aware and making that a priority.
Thank you. Well said. John, let's wrap this topic up with you. So you're with Yamaha, globally present company. Tell us a little bit about the different roles that your position interacts with at such a large company.
Sure, and I'll try to distill it down to three things that
Okay.
are very self-evident and different. The first person I'd like you to picture is Sarah, and Sarah works down in Franklin, Tennessee, and Sarah is a writer. She's a copywriter. She sits and she works with words, which I love. She's priceless. She is a independent contractor. When we have a concept for a series of videos or content, we'll talk with her, with the artist, and form a story and form a line of interest. She writes how we think, and she puts it in beautiful terms, and she is absolutely like she's not scared. We can say, what, can you do that? And she's got no ego. She just uses words like people use tools. It's beautiful, it's priceless. She's so important to us. That's Sarah. She's a copywriter. I'll name drop a few names now. John Batiste, Tower of Power, John Legend, Ben Folds, and Jason Mraz. All of those people have managers. I've spoken to every one of those managers this week. I'm not trying to be like impressive. I'm just saying that those managers have a really tough job. So this is number 2 position I'm talking about. Those people have to figure out what's best for the artist, and what is the relationship with Yamaha? How are we helping each other? Yamaha should be part of their team. We want to help them succeed, and we want to have our instruments correctly represented, but we have to have that relationship with the manager, so the manager can instill trust with the artist, et cetera, et cetera. So managers are crucial, and it's really hard to be a manager, but it's a role in the music industry that's very, very important. And the last person that I want to talk about, or the position, is Mr. Tomoji Hirokata, and he is our woodwind specialist. Samantha, maybe you know Tomoji. I don't know if you know, but he's just loved by everyone, and he is an artist at world-class artists come to him with their saxophone, clarinet, flute, whatever, and hand it to Tomoji and say, can you make it sound more blue? Can you make it shimmer? Can you do this? And he's the guy who tears it apart and makes joy happen through the mechanics, and through he does inscriptions on bells of saxophones. He's an artist of artists. He's so well loved, but it's just a position that maybe not a lot of people know about, and that is a woodwind or a brass technician. So those are the type of people that I deal with.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So
Yep.
At this point, I'd like to ask Larry for a second. Do we have time for one more round of questions, or would you like to open it up to Q&A, and then we can finish up perhaps with an additional question?
No, we can definitely do one more round of questions.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Larry. We're enjoying being here and sharing, and we hope this is insightful for the students and the faculty in the room. So I think I'd like to kind of combine 2 questions. So it would be, what do you think a couple of top skills that are needed for your position, and what advice would you have for college students that want to enter the workforce in our industry? So a couple of skills that you feel are essential for your position, and then some words of advice for college students. So I'll start with you, Samantha.
So my position has really evolved in the 12 years that I've been with the company. And again, I had no formal business training whatsoever. I never even took any advanced mathematics degree requirements. I never had anything. It was just performance-based. And so a lot of my development really was of my own accord, and it was really just experience-based, like starting that LLC, not having any experience running a business and having to figure it out, finding a mentor, finding someone that you can look up to in any aspect, whether you're in school or you're out of school. It could be a family member, it could be somebody that you look to in a role that you would like to see yourself in the future. It doesn't even need to be a formal relationship, just reaching out to someone and asking for a 20-minute discovery call, just so that you can learn a little bit of insight and see if it's something that makes sense for you. I think finding people that you can look to for advice and inspiration is incredible. Curiosity is huge. I mean, that's kind of what we're all talking about here. So many of us on this call, so many people that we work with, the thing that really, like, again, makes their heart beat fast. You're finding what gives you passion, what gives you all this joy. staying curious to things. So often, a lot of the inspiration for what I try to do in our company in the music industry, I look at other industries. I mentioned food earlier, or I don't golf, but my husband does, but I find the entire golf industry like really interesting. And so I look at brands like Titleist and, all these other like PG1, like all these other brands for what do they do for product launches, or what do they do for the way that they market to their customers, or what does their brand identity and voice look like? So curiosity, I think, is another huge one. And if you let that help guide you, you're really going with both feet in, like you're jumping in and you're giving it your all, no matter what it is that you're doing, and you're building your toolbox. The other thing that I think is huge, and I'm kind of answering both questions all at the same
time. Yes, as I was just going to say, just thinking that. Perfect.
Of course, like this is such a boilerplate answer, networking. Man, does it make all the difference in the world, right? So like similarly to a few of the people on the call earlier, I used to volunteer to help music retailers carry their stuff in for the National Trumpet Competition and the International Trumpet Guild Conference. And I would just make myself available to get to know them. And those are relationships that I now have on the other side that are incredibly valuable. Similarly with playing, I no longer play. I made the decision about 6 years ago that when I wake up in the morning, I'm more motivated by looking at our sales summary report and checking like what our team is doing. And I go to bed thinking about the time zones of like where all of our distribution manufacturing are in the world. And that's more exciting to me. But for me, those connections that I made as a performer are still incredibly valid. And they also gave me a little bit of a jumpstart in terms of people trusting me on this professional side of the industry. And so this networking element, whether you're reaching out to mentors, you're networking at events, you're going to events like NAMM and some of these other amazing outlets as you continue to grow in your career, that combined with curiosity is just like the perfect recipe.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you. Curiosity, certainly. That'll keep you just moving forward. Love that. Thank you so much. Let's go to Erin. Couple of skills that you feel are essential for what you do, and then tying that into some advice for anyone looking for a position in our industry.
Yeah, I think, everyone in that room is, you're working on a degree, and that is certainly a wonderful foundation. But the tools that keep that career going are not in the syllabus. You're not going to find the answers in a book. You're not going to find all of the answers on ChatGPT. For me, it was learning Adobe programs, like baseline. I do a lot of graphic design. I need to know how to use the industry standard programs. And I think that's something for every standard industry. You want to get into marketing, you need to understand data analytics. You want to get into, I don't know, veterinary stuff, you need to know anatomy, things like that. So for me in design, it's Adobe. I have to know the programs. I have to know what works and what doesn't. And I think one of the other things like people skills, and I struggled with people skills for a very long time until I took comedic improv. And
wow.
Yeah, and it is something that I absolutely love and adore, and I look forward to every single rehearsal, because for me it's the way that I get to be a musician, kind of, but not really always play an instrument. I get to sing and make funny stories up on the spot. So, but that taught me how to be more of a good listener, and active listening was so important to how I've gotten to where I am, where I'm not afraid all the time to walk into a room full of really important people. If I'm in a room with really important people, that must mean that I'm also really important. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been invited, or so like,
nice.
Imposter syndrome is real. We all have it. And if you don't, you're just lying to everyone else who also feels insecure. So I don't want to call anyone out. I'm sorry if anyone else is here is like, no, I'm amazing. But the thing that think is most important for anyone and everyone, you don't know what you don't know. So again, with Samantha's, if you go in with curiosity, you're gonna learn so much more than you could ever imagine. And I think being that curious, finding that the inner child in you that wants to ask why over and over again, you're gonna get so much further in any environment you ever want to be in. I think that answers the
Love.
question.
I think it does. I think it does. Imposter syndrome. Another webinar. All right, John, let's go with you.
This is so wonderful. Thank you all. I'm just growing so much right now. I'll just lay out a few things that I think our listeners, if they're thinking about being in the music industry, what they need to hear, a few things, and you can take what you want and leave what you want. I think you need to manage your words and your actions. My mother always used to say to me, Johnny Wittman, you leave the party before they want you to leave the party. And what that means to me is you will be in situations that are social. There may be, people having cocktails, be the person who's completely in control and leave when appropriate. Know your place. Even though I know my people above me, my bosses, I know them well, I always keep space. I always put them above me with respect. Do you understand what I'm saying? I never let my guard down and be all palsy wowsy. I'm fun to be with, I hope, but I always just respect those above me, and I will always keep my place. I manage my words. Please manage your words. What comes out of your mouth reflects what's in your brain. People remember it if you use vulgarity or even hint at off-color jokes. Get your act together, stay tight, and be smart about things. The remaining curious is really, like everybody has said, 100%. I've dealt with so many interns over the years and I love them. The ones that now work for Yamaha or work for other companies all over are the ones that would come in my office after and say, can you unpack that a little bit? Or why did you ask me to do this? What's the end game? That curiosity to me says, you are a colleague. You're not just a, whatever. I would highly encourage our listeners to read voraciously about the industry. Read what's happening, who's doing great things, who's whatever. Just know people in the industry or outside the industry. People who read books live 100 more lives than people who don't read books or who don't listen to books or what have you. I think the most important thing I would say is be interesting. Just be fun to be with, be interesting, be the person that people want to be with, that they want to confide in. And it means so much to people who, like myself and others on this call for sure, that you're easy to talk to, that you're amazingly trustworthy with information. That will propel you, very, very quickly. Pay attention to your relationship with music, and always remain a student of people. We've heard it many times on this talk, to be an active listener and to really, really open yourself up to what is the most important thing in the world of the person that I'm talking to, not me, but how can I serve them? That just naturally propels you and gives you inertia, I think, in the industry. So one last thing real quick is I do know the mechanics of music. I know how to chart tunes, I know chords, I know harmony, and that's because I studied it. That has served me in my job now. I have to be able to talk the nuts and bolts if I'm in a production, something's going wrong musically. That has served me to know the chops of, the mechanics of music itself. And that I'll leave it there.
Invaluable, John. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we're recording this because I'm going to write all of that down. We're going to go now to Hapa, and then we'll close this panel discussion out with J-Dash. So Hapa?
Yeah, gosh, I think we're all cut from the same cloth because, the advice that I would give is very much in line with that. I love that. I love that John just talked about, really watching your words and being mindful of that. I think it not only reflects what's in your mind, but oftentimes reflects what's in your heart as well. And so I think, like let what's in your heart come through. And I think that hopefully that's what you're experiencing here with this panel as well. I think we're all, we're led by a much greater sort of purpose that we're all on this journey. It's not, motivated by money or motivated by fame or anything like that. I think, some advice that I definitely give to a lot of the young people that I mentor, one of the biggest ones I think is really get a hold of how important time is. Time is the most valuable resource that we all have, and it is the great equalizer. I mean, whether you're a billionaire or whether you are living paycheck to paycheck, you're still allocated that 24 hours each day. So I often talk about the 168 hours a week, and I actually have an exercise that I run a lot of our students through, and then also I do myself. I take this practice on myself as well of, allocating that time. So getting proactive about that. I mean, I think many of us have been guilty of saying, gosh, I wish there was more time in the day. Oh, I wish I could have a 28-hour day. And it's just not possible. So it's like, stop wishing for it, because it's actually a waste of time. The better thing to do would be to really take inventory of how are you spending your time currently. I've got an exercise literally detailing out, this is how I'm spending that 168 hours a week. So just some quick math. If you were to get 8 hours of sleep a night, which, God bless you if you're getting 8 hours of sleep a night, but like that's 56 hours of that. Let's say you're working a full 40-hour week. Now you're looking at 96 hours out of that 168. So what do you do with the rest of it? There is enough time for everything that you love and that you're passionate about. And there's nothing wrong with scrolling social media. I mean, there really isn't. So long as there's purpose in it. If you can say, all right, I'm going to scroll social media for 2 hours a day, I'm going to carve that space and time out. Like now that's great. You've been now a lot more intentional about this resource that you have. Time is more valuable than money, believe me. And I think especially when you're earlier on in your career, you have an excess of time. Like there's actually time is on your side on that side of it. However, time just keeps going. So it's really important to get proactive about that and take advantage of that. And so for all the folks that are in the audience or that will listen to this, I hope that you really see the value in time and that you really manage that resource and really take a hold of it, as opposed to letting yourself be a slave to time. Really get a hold of that. And then the last thing I was going to say is, and this is going back to something that Jay was talking about earlier about hitting the wall. Yeah. You're going to hit a wall. And not only that, I mean, another analogy that's sort of similar to this is, what if I told you that there was the most invaluable treasure that was buried inside of this house? And I told you the exact address of where this house was, and you knew exactly where it was. But when you got there, the front door was locked. What do? Do you give up? Do you turn around? Do you just say, oh, he was lying to me or whatnot? Like, no, what you'd probably do is you'd probably find another way in, right? And you'd maybe go around the back and see if the back door was open, and that might not be open. And so then what do? Do you give up, right? And like, this is it. I think we're all looking for what is it that we were put on this earth to do? And that really is what that treasure is to be able to help other people along this journey and to like leave this earth better than it was when we first, got here. Right. And it's like, how can you get to that point where you're getting that level of satisfaction and you feel like you've really fulfilled your purpose? And that is the treasure that is buried. And it's up to us to be able to uncover that. And so be diligent, be, persevere through the downs. I think the ups and downs are just a part of life, and just know that those are coming, and just, sort of continue to fight through it, all of that. Oh, and one last thing. Write things down. Like, write things down. I've been taking notes through this whole thing. Like, write things down. It's so important. And John mentioned even like staying up on news. Write down names. Write down terms. Like, there's a lot of acronyms that get thrown out in different industries. Like, write those things down, and then seek counsel around what that means, or I love that John said an intern came to him and was like, how do you unpack, can you help me unpack this? You know, find people that can help you do that. But it starts by writing things down for sure.
Power of the word, the written word.
I just wanted to say one thing.
Yes.
I totally agree on the time management thing. If there's one thing I get really geeky about in my life and my day, it's scheduling out time. But everyone who's on this call, as a musician, we all kind of have this superpower already. You think about the rehearsals that you have to program into your day, your warm-up time, if you're teaching, your lesson planning. So a lot of those skills are already building and developing. So if you can think about that in a slightly different approach and get, you know, your concept of what's a perfect day, what does it take for you to feel your best, what does it take for you to reach your goals, work backwards. I think it's amazing, but I couldn't agree with you more. It's one of the things that, like, I get excited in the morning to chart out my schedule for the day based on my priorities. So
That's awesome. Thank you for that, Samantha. Thank you. And we're going to wrap up this whole panel discussion. We're going to give that opportunity to J-Dash.
You know, I have never been afraid of anything my whole life until today. And that is following all of that stuff. That is terrifying. No, seriously, thank you all for all of those words. I'm going to try to wrap this up in the best way I know how, which is like, in terms of skills, handle your business, set small goals, finish them, measure results. That's it. Handling your business could mean just having the discipline to practice your instrument every day. It could mean learning, reading books, like John was saying, learning more about your industry, putting those things into practice. Get outside, network, talk to people, but don't just talk to people, connect with people. And that is different, but it's lasting. After you connect with people, follow up. The art of the follow up is not talked about enough. You have to follow up. That's how you get locked in. Don't discount the value of mistakes. So you're going to get out there, like, try stuff. Don't just sit there reading. Don't just be online lurking and not do anything. Get out there and try stuff. Fail as fast as you possibly can, because the information that you get from making mistakes is way more valuable than just book knowledge. Hate to break it to you, but it's really cool. And then find ways to provide value, right? And that's whether that's in the creation of your art, whether that is, I am a great organizer, right? Those usually make great managers. I'm a great communicator. Those make great copywriters. Like, take the skills that you naturally have and find ways to provide value for other people. And the last thing I'll leave you with, make your life tell the story you've always wanted to hear. That's it.
Could you repeat that last phrase? I want it to sink in.
Make your life tell the story you've always wanted to hear.
Beautiful.
You can't lose.
You can't lose. Wow, I'm almost speechless, and that's an odd thing for me. But I will just sum this up by, for all of you who are in the room, if you could, you can feel the spirit of this industry coming through this webinar, and I could not be more thankful for each one of these panelists for sharing your insights and taking the time today to help the world be a better place. Every action we make moves us in that direction, and you are such pillars of our industry and so inspirational. I cannot thank you enough for being here today. And I think at this point, Larry, we're going to open up for some Q&A. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
There's the camera. Okay. First of all, before we do the Q&A, I want to introduce some folks to you because we've had a few come in during the panel discussion. First of all, you may have noticed online there's someone else. That's one of our other instructors of music, full-time instructor, Johnny Espinoza. and he's new this year. So we're, at least in terms of full-time faculty. And so we're thankful to have him. Also, one of our other students came in, Zane. He's right over here. He's a guitar student and also a gigging musician. He's got a band. He goes out and plays. And then right dead center is our college president, Dr. Thomas Mills. And Dr. Mills knows I'm sincere in saying this. We could not be doing this event today were it not for the changes and the improvements that Dr. Mills led the way in making in this facility. We're in, I think right now, stage 2 of improvements to the Performing Arts Center, and it's been through his leadership that has happened. So we can do this kind of really cool thing because of that. And of course, thanks to our IT folks in the back who've been making all this happen today, and we're here Wednesday when we did the practice run. So now we're going to go to the Q&A, and I want to know which of y'all want to start out the Q&A. Okay, Zane, come up? Come up. Okay, when for the Q&A, here's what I'm going to do. Here we go. I'll put the mic right here, and I want each of you, as you come up, please introduce yourself. Even though I've introduced you, just say who you are, and then if you're directing your question to a particular panelist, you can say their name. If you want to have that sheet I gave you, you can, or you can maybe see it up there on the screen, but be sure you do that. Okay, go for it, Zane.
Hi, my name is Zane. Like he said, I'm a guitarist and I gig outside of college as well. Now, being in college and having my own apartment at 18, I've noticed that coming out of high school, just straight into college, it's a little bit of a struggle. And it's kind of hard to see the future at this point in my life. So stepping forward, this is kind of just a broad question. What should my priorities be?
If you think that was hard, like wait till after college. Man, what a great question. Shoot, I'm gonna go sit with you so I can listen to somebody give me an answer that I don't have. It's it's an amazing question, because it's like, how do you time travel, right? How do you predict the future? How do you know what's gonna happen? It's you don't. That's the answer. Like, how do you set priorities? Now that is another story, because all you can do is plan and execute, measure results, and there will be some mistakes. Give yourself the grace and the time to make those mistakes, but definitely write things down, plan, understand yourself enough to know what's actually giving you energy and understand the things that's taking energy away, right? Pay attention, because that's an actual physical feeling. Whatever rooms you're in, whatever people you're around, like they will either add energy to your stack or they will take energy away. So pay attention to that, lean more into the things that give you energy, and then your give backs can be, intentional. I'll stop there. There's too many people with their hands raised that have way better answers.
I don't know that I have a better answer, but this is something that I've struggled with throughout a lot of my life. And I think a lot of it has come down to, what do I find important to me? What are my values? What do I want? Like for me, my family is always first, and then myself. And they're really close, because sometimes it's hard to choose. But knowing what your values are, what you stand for in life, makes setting full priorities outside of yourself a lot easier. And always be authentic. Knowing you can't come back at yourself and be upset if you are your authentic self as much as possible.
John or Samantha.
Oh yeah, either way. I'll add just a couple things. I think one of the things that can be another superpower is learning when to be reactive to situations and when to be proactive. And so you're talking about priorities and setting priorities. that's great. And you might be able to set those priorities and have a clear head and move forward with that and know exactly what you're going after. You also might not. The universe might not give you that clarity. And so it's also important to try to, when it's happening to you in the moment, take stock, or retroactively look back and say, okay, so this just happened. This is how I dealt with it. I'm happy with that. Like what Erin was saying, I'm happy with that, or I would like to approach it differently. I say this sometimes. I have a 5-year-old daughter at home, and so we do a lot of reading. We talk about different things as she's learning, but it's a lot like that book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, where the mouse wants the cookie and he wants all the things that go along with it, but you really do have to have the milk in the fridge that he wants. You need to have a space for his bed. Like, you have to have some level of preparation too. So while you're starting to figure out your priorities, you can also be doing the baseline groundwork and framework on yourself, your resume, your professional development, your financial wellness, and your financial literacy, because no matter what it is that you're doing, it's great to have a good idea of how you can be responsible with your money as you're growing in your career path. One thing that's really important to me is making sure that anybody that I work with is aware of personal budgeting and personal financial goals, or saving for retirement later on, and some of these things that are really, really crucial no matter where you are at your journey. But if you can start now with a solid framework on any of that, as your income over time grows and you get the clarity to your profession, then that just kind of grows and augments over time too. And so all of these things, I think groundwork and framework, even if you don't know your existing priorities, are going to be really helpful for you.
Yep. That's all great stuff, Samantha, for sure. Zane, I'll just add 2 things. Number one, I highly suggest, if you're asking what are your priorities, your priority, I believe, one of your highest priorities must be your health. I know what it's like to be, I used to be a young man, and I know that we feel like we're immortal. You're not. And you need to take care of your body, because if you take care of your body, your mind is going to be more free. And if your mind is free, you're going to be more creative, and you're going to be more energetic, and people are going to feel that from you. So I highly encourage you to prioritize your health, and whatever that means to you, I encourage you to do that. The second thing is, this might sound a little crass, but I'll just lay it on you. You are 100% responsible. There's nobody on their way to save you or to make you successful, or nobody gets up in the morning and goes, how can I make Zane succeed today? There's nobody there, right? So it's up to you to get up and get moving and be present, and whatever it takes for you to take 100% responsibility for your success, man, that's what's going to get you through the hard times, that grit. And sometimes you just have to talk yourself into it. It's not easy. I really can relate. But if you can grasp that, it's kind of all on you. That empowers you, and empowers you to be more present to other people also.
Zane, I'm just going to ask you, what makes you come alive?
What do you mean?
What gets you excited? Like, what is something, like when you say what you're asking what your priorities are, but I want a little bit more context. So without, throwing everything at you, I'm just kind of curious, like what is it that gets you going? What gets you excited? Where do you want to place your focus?
I guess just that sort of raw feeling that you get playing in front of people.
Okay, so performing more.
Yeah.
How much are you performing right now?
I haven't performed that often. Like Larry said, well, I'm in a band outside of college, and it's still kind of rough getting off the ground, especially because of the area that we live in.
Yep.
But definitely just a couple of shows here and there. It's just a nice feeling for sure.
Okay, so you're playing a couple of shows. You've played a couple of shows over what period of time?
Like,
a year?
Just over like 2 months. We haven't been together that long.
Right. So, okay. So this was what I was kind of getting at. So you're just getting started on this, and a couple of shows in 2 months is actually a really big accomplishment. First of all, you should celebrate that 100%. There are people that have had bands for a lot longer and have not even played gigs, right? So like, that's actually a really great thing. I think it's going to come down to setting some of these micro goals for you as well. And so when you start to look at that, I agree with what everybody else has said, but I think, if you say that, hey, performing in front of people really makes me come alive and I want to do more of that. Then it really just becomes about reverse engineering that. What does that look like to have a goal and say that we're going to play in the next 6 months, we're going to be able to book, we want to try to book 6 shows in 6 months and actually put a number towards it. You know, when you set goals, I think it's more than just, I want to play more. I want to impact more people. You then have to get really specific about this and then actually set time against this. There's a whole theory around SMART goals, which I like to sort of like reduce down to really sort of being more about like making things measurable, making things time bound, and then being very specific about it. And I think like that's really what that is about. So, you know, I would say also to get together with your band and make sure that everybody's on the same page about that. Because I think if you know, you want to be performing more, but you've got band members who are not into that, then like, you know, that's going to be really hard for you to be able to meet some of those goals. But I think if you can get alignment around that and look at, you know, don't look at this as forever, but just look at it for the next 6 months. 6 months from now will be October, right? Like end of September. So like visualize that too. Like, what does that look like to be able to do that, or to put out an EP, or to put out a single, or whatnot, and start working and moving in that direction.
All right. I do have some more questions here. Thank you. All those answers were very good and insightful. Thank you very much. Now I've gone over what my priorities should be, and I heard you guys, whenever you were discussing it, kind of it mentioned a little bit, but what should be the things that I should avoid stepping forward?
The obvious answer is anything that's not in alignment with your priorities. I know that seems so obvious, but if it's something that you feel like you're putting your really precious time in, like Hapa was talking about, and it's not leading you to your goals, if it's something that's also enjoyable for you, that's a different thing. And it's not like you can get out of any necessary responsibility that, you know, you have in a job or an educational program, but really focusing your energy, that like 80-20 idea, or change the percentages to what makes the most sense for you, but putting all of yourself into it. If there are things that you feel like you need to back away from to give yourself more focus and more energy, there are also really professional ways to do that, and to communicate with people about where you're at in your life or your professional journey, or for you to be showing up in your most authentic way and to really provide value. You know, it's going to look like this for you right now because you've got XYZ coming down the pipeline, but you know, just being able to communicate through that with people, I think, is also important. That curiosity thing kind of goes back, like, you're going to find a lot of things you like, you're also going to find a lot of things you don't like, and taking stock of that as you go along is only going to make it's kind of like those choose your own adventure books, where if you go down path A, you've got all these options over here, and you go down path B, you've got all these, but you kind of keep whittling it down as you go. And that's also kind of what we're talking about with all these career journeys that we've had that have snaked their way through our lives. You keep getting a little bit clearer focus as you go. And that's why that curiosity part is so important, because it gives you a clearer lens to be able to do that with.
I'm going to step in for just a moment, just because of the time frame. I think, why don't we have each person that has questions ask one, and then if everybody gets a chance, then if we want to go back and do others, we can. Let's do that. So Dr. Bolick has a question.
Hi, everyone. So y'all had mentioned this briefly in just talking. And so one of my interests as a faculty member, because it's changing the way that we instruct, use curriculum, is artificial intelligence. And so one of the things that I've done, and I've even done it with some of these students in my music history class, is been using Suno AI along with ChatGPT and everything, basically anything we can get our hands on for free, not have to pay for, so to speak, on that open sense, and been creating, you know, different musics. Like with Suno will allow you to do a 4-minute song and help you either create the lyrics or create your own lyrics and whatnot. So my question to y'all would be is, and then I'll get out of the way, is what AIs, if any, are you using, and what advantage and, you know, some advantages or disadvantages, and even more so, I see it going here because it's already changing what we're doing. So that way we're kind of have a little bit more insight as, you know, on that side, because we're really focusing more on the academia side, not the side that y'all deal with.
I'd love to hop in. Oh, Erin, your hand went up first. Okay, I'll go first. So personally, I use AI all the time, but I specifically use it for things that will help me automate the things and make my life more efficient to get to the creative as fast as I can, right? So I'm not going to use AI to make the song, although AI is amazing and the generative qualities can actually make music now, and that's really interesting. But for me, like it is cathartic for me to make music. I have to make music. So if I can use N8N and I can connect that locally to, you know, some Olama model that I'm running, and I can actually use that to like create some workflow so that way, you know, emails like the drafts are getting like responded to and stuff like that. I'm going to do that. It's really great for organizing thoughts. Chat GPT and other models are great for like, hey, I want to write a song about this. Can you give me an outline of telling a full story about it? But using that as a jumping off point for writing. But at the end of the day, like I have to be the one creating this stuff, right? And there's like tons of legislation going on right now. It's like, where does the line begin and end in terms of inspiration and copyright, right? Like what these models are trained off of, like how are people getting paid for the stuff that's getting generated? So I try to stay away from like doing anything that's talking back to the internet. So I usually run everything locally. But yeah, I use AI daily.
I also use it every day. Anything from is this line too long to wait in at Disney World? Simple things like that, or to I need to create this email template that I'm going to be sending out to so many people whenever they come for this specific thing. For me, the majority of usage is not finalization. It is the very beginning stages of organizing my thoughts, asking me questions if I'm missing something, how to set my values and my priorities. That was very helpful for me. It's it's something that I can customize for the way I work, for the way my brain works, and it just takes off the monotony of stuff that I don't want to waste my brain space on. I don't want to sit there and write a to-do list and break down these steps when I can just say, I need to do this thing. How should I break it down? What order should I do things in? Just to make my life a little bit more smooth in my day-to-day, because there's only so many hours and I want to have the rest of my hours for fun stuff. So I that's how I use it. I think everyone has, it's just a fancy text predictor, the way that I use it. And for me, that's perfect.
I use it similarly to Erin. I basically treat it like it's my executive assistant. And so anything that I'm trying to work up to get me to the point where I think that I'm going to add value, that's where I use it for. I also use it every day. I also use it for fun stuff. I mean, sometimes it's just kind of like a really interesting thought exercise to think about something else. Your point about Disney, I'm actually on vacation now with my family at Disney. And so I did do a Disney itinerary with ChatGPT. So I was like, yes, I hear you on that. But it's a really important tool, just like any other tool. The more you practice, the better you get at it. And it's interesting because it is generative. It does learn quite a bit about you. And so now I'm even having it like come up with, you know, some text thing or whatever, but now write this in my own voice. Now write this in like a brand, because I don't have a copywriter on my team, which I wish that I did, John. Oh my gosh, I would be overwhelmingly grateful to someone, but usually a lot of that falls to me. And so it's me representing a company's voice and brand narrative. And so I can also use the AI to study the Shire's website or the Wilson website or the Eastman website to gain some information from that. But if you treat it like it's your executive assistant, anything that you think someone else could do for you that gives you more space to do greater things, I think it's really valuable. But practice it, try it. And then the academia space is something that I'm really not as familiar with, but at the last NAMM conference that we had, I mean, Carolyn, you could probably talk about this. How many AI presentations were there throughout? It was an incredible wealth of knowledge. And in every session that I was in or went to, there were AI questions. It's on the tip top of everybody's mind. So there are tons of resources out there. I'm sure NAMM has some resources. I'm sure there will be a giant study that comes out that NAMM puts together. You know, I mean, it's really something that's becoming really ingrained in everybody's daily lives. So
I just made this real quick for Jay on using AI. I don't know if anybody can see that.
Just give me a piece. Just give me some points on that.
I mean, whatever. Like we just, I mean, so it's fun. You can use it for a lot of things. I'm really glad to hear that you're incorporating AI though into the classroom, because I do think that this is really important to be able to share the tools that, we're using in the professional field. And I think like to be able to introduce that in classroom settings, I think is really important, as well. So yeah.
Hi, my name is Allison Godwin. I'm a music major here and I'm a percussionist. I teach right now. I teach at the 2 feeder middle schools for Burleson Centennial, which is Texas, and I love what I do. I love teaching, but I know it's not the best money wise, and unfortunately, we live in a world where you do got to make a bit of money, and I know I want to pursue something else outside of that as well as teaching. So I wanted to know, are there any music related careers that you wish more people would pursue, or you would say are really in demand and you wish you would see more of in your career?
I've got a big one, if I can throw it out there. One that I kind of wish I had mentioned earlier in my like careers that I get to work with. Our regional sales manager position, right? This is the person that goes out within a territory, say it's New England or it's Texas, and they're the ones that are representing our company to educators, to schools, to music stores, retailers, and artists as well, kind of connecting all the dots about the way that our company can be involved with a community. But one of the most amazing aspects of that is all of the traits that music educators possess translate very well to this role. And so many of our regional sales managers actually come from that music education background. It's just the most like amazing blend of the 2 career paths. So that's one that I would definitely recommend checking out. All Yamaha, Jupiter, Conselmer, Eastman Music Company, I'm sure every single industry, every single company has these very key pivotal people who are representing on these local levels. And that might be one that would be interesting for you to look at.
Real quick, I couldn't agree more with Samantha, and especially having a background in percussion. Boy, there are band directors and dealers that would be so, please, can you help me with this? Can you talk to me about this? But we are always looking for strong regional managers to represent our company, and they're hard to find. So your percussion background is very, very worthwhile.
I'm sure this requires more school, so don't hate me. But as a percussionist, I'm sure you know that the health of your ears is so important. And there are audiologists everywhere, but the specific subcategory of music audiology and the people that serve that world, oh, my heart belongs to them, because they are very huge proponents of the health of your ears at the very beginning and then taking care of you when you mess it up later. And I think that that is a very in demand, but very, it's not known. It's not known. And I wish it was more well known, but it takes a lot more school. So.
No, but that's so real. Most like kids my age, percussionists, I already know have hearing damage, including me. And it's like, oh, wow, this is a thing that's happening. So that's very interesting. Yeah.
And I was just going to add, don't forget about entrepreneurship. So maybe there's an opportunity for you to be able to share your knowledge, share your unique perspective. Every single human on this earth has unique a unique perspective and something that they can bring to the table. So, you know, I definitely don't think discount that. I think going back to what everybody else said too, I think the most powerful thing is your network. And so, you know, be able to tap into the network that you have and be able to see other opportunities that might exist. And like I mentioned earlier, being able to help solve a problem that is out there.
Okay, we've got two more students that have questions, and I think we have about 5 minutes left. So we're going to start with Christian and then Russell will come up.
You already introduced me, but my name's Christian. I'm a music major and I play trumpet. My question's for DJ Hapa. So you know how you said like don't listen just from your ears? Could you like go more in depth about that?
Yeah, 100%. First of all, I do want to shout out all of the students who are here and taking part in this today. I think, you know, we're hoping to really bring as much value to this experience as possible. And so thank you all for being here and dedicating your time to this. Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of times people will listen with their ears and not necessarily with their eyes or their other senses. I mean, you sort of as a human being, like we have the ability to observe and tap in and witness the world around us with more than just our hearing. And I think a lot of times when you think about music, people automatically go to the ears. But I think there's so much that can be gained by really, you know, looking between the lines and sort of seeing things as what the possibilities of, like what the potential is in a situation as opposed to what it is on the surface level. So I just, something that I learned as being a DJ is being able to go a level deeper or several levels deeper to be able to sort of see the mechanics behind things. It's funny because my passion, you know, earlier on in my own music career, I thought that music was my passion. And it's one of my passions, but really the bigger passion that I have is creative problem solving and sort of seeing the world in that way. Like, how can I put pieces together and where can these things go? So I think being observant in that way, you may find things, and that's beyond even just a career in music. That's just as a human being, how can you look at the world with a lens and sort of see it for what it could be as opposed to what it currently is? And I think if you're able to do that, you definitely are operating at a higher frequency.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Russell. And y'all were saying, so I'm also in a band outside of school, and I was just, and then we've been playing together for like a year or so, and we're finally wanting to do some shows, and I was just wondering how y'all were saying like get those connections and get your name out there. I was like, I'm wondering like how I would do that and who I would, how do I know who to talk to?
Show up. Go to the place that you want to play.
Mhm.
Ask anyone. If there's a bartender and they're the only person there, ask them, hey, who do I talk to if I want to play here? Or if you know someone who already does play there, who do you talk to when you come here? It's the very basis of how do I get in? Just ask. Someone's going to be nice and help. That's what I have to do with the Army Band when we go places. How do I get to play here? Cold emails. It's scary, but it'll get you there. It's a good place to start.
Thank you.
I would add to that. There are places in and around your community that would probably really love to have you guys play. And if you are, they say, if you be willing to do something poorly before you do it richly, you know, like play 20 gigs without asking for any money and get your act together. But I think the face-to-face thing is really, really important along, you know, with the emails and stuff. But, you know, just going out into the community, there may be a store opening or a park event or something, you know, where you guys can mold the music to the event. Just, you know, like increase the repertoire so you can make something happen for an event or for a location, for something in your community. Start by booking gigs. Just book gigs. Show up and videotape yourself and try to get better and better and better. Watch the videotape. You'll go, oh my gosh, that doesn't work, or that we're out of tune, and that's just part of making making it better. But just get yourself out there, make offers, and don't ask for much or any money for a while, and just hone the craft as a group.
Man, I'd say it's easier now more than ever with all of the tools that you have available. And then also go through the exercise with your band of thinking about looking at your band from a listener's perspective and then from a booking agent's perspective, right? So if I was going to book your band, and first of all, if we look at the stats on how many artists and how many songs are released on Spotify every day, and how many of those songs get 0 plays, like throughout the life, like 0, like not even their mom is listening to this song, right? And so from a booking agent's perspective, like in my mind, the majority of artists who ask, can they play at my venue, are going to be trash, right? Like that's what it is. Like, so that's the perspective you got to attack it at. Okay, well, if that's the way that they're looking at bands in general, it's not personal. How can we stand out, our band, get our stuff out there? So that with no money, hey, we're going to set up some cameras when we're practicing. We're going to do some rehearsals. We're going to create some content. We're going to reimagine that content. Maybe we use AI to dress up our music in a different way so visually we can put it out there on our social media. We're going to start our Facebook page. We're going to go play at a park in the streets. We're going to get the clearances to do that. Like, think outside of the box. So that way, when you go to that venue, you can say, look, I'm going to bring 50 people to your venue. Dope. Cool. I can sell products to 50 people when they come. If you can consistently bring 50 people, we'll book you this many times, right? And start to really like take control of the narrative for your band and your story. Make it interesting, right? Like, don't just come with your handout, because it's not about handout, it's about providing value. And that's the way you provide value, is like, hey, I'm going to bring people to your establishment. That is the value to that establishment. That is the reason you play. The reason why bands play at places is not like, oh, they're doing charity work so that way we can hear music. No, it's so they can sell stuff to people that come. So if you provide value of people that come to a place, you hold the cards. So figure out how your band gets people to places. Once you have that, it's a wrap.
And the last thing, just to piggyback off of what Jay just said too, is I'm going to put a term around this, but I think it would be really helpful to start to define a brand, when it comes to your band. I mean, like, there are so many bands and so many artists and so many DJs out there, and it's just like, what really is going to help you stand out is defining who you all are. And then having that type of a presence that's online. That doesn't mean that you have, millions of followers or thousands of followers online. That just means that you've said, hey, this is what we stand for. This is what we sound like. This is what you can expect from us. And then you can at least start to narrow down some of those opportunities that you're talking about, or like where your focus should be. But I think it does start with some internal work initially with you and your band to try to define what that is.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I learned something. I didn't know Russell played outside. I'm gonna have to check into that. Yeah. Okay. Students, can we thank all of our panelists and Eric and Carolyn for doing this today? Yeah. Thank you so much. So much. And I guess this is the end. Okay. It appears to be. I didn't know if Eric was going to come back on, but
Eric, come back on.
yeah, well, he may have other things he needs to
No,
do.
I think he's riveted
Yep.
by the conversation.
Anyway.
Yeah, so great. So great. Thank you, live studio audience.
Oh,
We
there he is.
really,
Okay.
really appreciate you. Yep.
Yes, and it has been such a great event for us. And now that we've had it once, we'll sort of know more about how much there is to offer, and maybe we can get more people interested in taking part. This is great. It's been really excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you everyone who was there today. Good luck to everyone. Stay in touch, and thank you so much. And thanks to the AV team and Bethany here on the NAMM team who's backstage. Thanks so much. And thank you to all of our wonderful, wonderful panelists. Could not have been more inspirational. Thank you for joining us today.